jump to OBS here. Sorry. So, alright. I've been tinkering with my green screen settings all day, and apparently I need to lean forward right now. So, how's everyone doing before we get too serious here? Hopefully good, hopefully good. So the point of this discussion is to try to bring everybody on board and where we are. There's a lot of people that are, you know, Brock, how's it going? Oh, I should mention, before I get too far into this, this OBS scene has no alerts turned on. I will go back and replay all the events that happen from this point on, once we get into actually coding and that kind of stuff. So, if you subscribe, follow, donate bits, whatever, the event will replay. It'll just be after the discussion. The reason for that is this discussion is going to be put up on YouTube. It'll probably be tomorrow night, probably more like Saturday morning. Part of the Twitch affiliate agreement is that the videos, any video that's created on Twitch has to have exclusivity to it for 24 hours. So in the meantime, the VOD will be up on Twitch. And then I'll edit this down to just this discussion, and then I'm gonna throw this up on YouTube. But yeah. Anyone else having video problems? I'm being told there might be video problems. Like, I hope not, but I don't know. So, how's everyone doing? Hopefully pretty good. So the question was if there's going to be like stuff on video. Don't forget about background music training. Oh, yep. I should probably just kill that then, huh? Blink. Alright, so, you can only hear me talk for now. Yay, lucky you. Alright, so, I guess we'll get started here. So, this is kind of a discussion, kind of like a State of the Union, State of the State kind of thing, but I like to call it the State of the Bird, because, you know, it's Pidgin, so State of the Bird. So there's been a lot of, I guess frustration is probably the best word, on where Pidgin as a project is. And that extends from me, from other developers, from users, from packagers, from everywhere, basically. So I kind of wanted to address it. I haven't talked about this stuff in a long time, and I figured it's overdue. So the project as it stands right now, for those of you that aren't aware, is we have our current release version, which is 2.12.0. And we have the mythical 3.0 as well that has been being worked on for the better part of a decade now. 3.0 is an implementation of a plan I started 10 years ago, maybe more, to turn libpurple into a G-object-based library. For those that aren't aware, G-object is a sub-library in glib, in glib, whatever you want to call it, which is the, like, C utility library at the very bottom of the GNOME stack. And years and years and years ago, they added the sub-library called G-object, which gives you all sorts of fancy OOP-like constructs, including polymorphism, what else I wanted to say, whatever. It gives you a whole bunch of OOP constructs in C, which is awesome, and that's how GTK is built and all that stuff. Previous to this, libpurple was using, as best I can describe it, as ad hoc OOP in C. It wasn't used in a whole lot of places. Pretty much just the buddy list. The buddy list had some ad hoc inheritance and stuff like that. So anyways, about a decade ago, I started this plan that would move Pidgin from the ad hoc OOP stuff to G-object. I ran into a bunch of problems with it, and mostly because I was trying to hit a moving target, because people were adding new APIs all the time, stuff like that. I got frustrated and ended up taking a hiatus for a while. Um, a couple years after that, a summer code student came by and started implementing it, and he did some amazing work for a summer. Um, Absolutely insane amount of work got done. Um, so we've known for a while, or so we've had this sitting for a while. Or he did a ton of work, but unfortunately he didn't finish. Um, so the tree is in this unfinished state with a bunch of interfaces that need a lot of work and stuff like that. Um, and as a side effect of that, since we knew we were going to break API as well as ABI, um, quick rundown: API is like your typical API, so like your header file, stuff like that, like just making sure your functions don't change, stuff like that. ABI is application binary interface, and that's how like you can compile a plugin for Pidgin, or if you compile a Pidgin plugin on Pidgin 2.6.0, excuse me, you can still use it on Pidgin 2.12.0. That's because we haven't broken ABI. So 3.0 is a complete API and ABI breakage. We know this, and we don't want to do this a bunch of times because it's going to piss off a lot of people. Your code will stop working, distros will have to package new ones, and so on and so forth. So it's something we've tried to take very seriously and are trying not to do more than we need to. Herein lies the problem. There's been a bunch of summer code projects which either remain unmerged or they're sitting in 3.0 and they've never seen the light of day because they break API or ABI and they can't be distributed. And it hasn't been released because the main stuff that breaks all of it isn't releasable. This is a huge problem, as I'm sure you can guess. And we're trying to slowly get through it and stuff like that, but of course, time is the most scarce resource for an open source project. So, anyways, so the story goes on. The summer code student implemented all of that. There was a ton of work on it, and then it kind of sat for a while. There was a few releases here and there of the 2.x branch, but nothing really major was happening on 3.0. So, in about December of 2015, I was kind of coming out of my hiatus, was looking at the status of the project and going, Pidgin's kind of dead, and I feel responsible. It was then when I started digging into the numbers, looking at issues, how many commits are there, all that blah, 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 and I realized that, hey, this is pretty much my fault, and I feel like I need to take over and kind of finish this. So in January of 2016, as some of you know, I took over the project. There's been a ton of work that has happened since January of 2016, but it hasn't been enough. Other stuff has gotten in the way. There's been life matters, or whatever, personal life issues. There's been other stuff, and so on and so forth. So that aside, one of the things, when I took over the project, I was super optimistic that we would have, so that was January of 2016. I was super optimistic. I was like, we're getting 3.0 released by the end of 2016. Here we are on September 14th of 2017. We're still not released. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. I'm not going to place any blame at anyone in particular, except for myself. So, when I took over the project, it kind of reinvigorated the project. We did a bunch of moves that have been, I think, overall for the best, but some of that still remains to be seen. We started doing pull requests via Bitbucket. We moved our primary Mercurial repository to Bitbucket, and we started reviewing each other's code. We started cleaning up a bunch of stuff. We started removing ancient dependencies that just aren't even an issue anymore. I think one of my favorite ones that came through recently was we finally got to delete a ton of stuff to talk to X screensaver because we're using the dbus interface now, and that's huge. That's huge from a usability point of view, from a future proofing point of view, among other things. But so one of the other things is like I said, we've been deleting a ton of old dead code. We've bumped our minimum glib requirement. We've bumped our minimum GTK requirement. This has gotten rid of tons of uh, legacy code, workarounds, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So when I took over the project in January of 2016, according to Coverity.com, they do static analysis of source code, and they will do it for free for open source projects. So our line of code count for them was 550,000 lines of code. Today, it's sitting around 450,000 lines of code. So we've deleted about 100,000 lines of code, and we still have more to do. So one of the reasons we're trying to get rid of all this dead code and all of that is the Pidgin source code is intimidating, to say the least. And not only that, it's not exactly easy to navigate. I mean, there are a ton of files. There's now 450,000 lines of code to go through. They're not necessarily organized well, and I mean, there's a lot of issues with it. So one of the things I've been trying to do is to make it easier to deal with the code and figure it out and stuff like that. One of the problems with that is you're kind of sitting in the background and that kind of stuff, which is one of the reasons why I started live streaming everything, was to show people we're still here, we're still alive, we're still working on stuff. And that's helped a little bit, but the problem is we still have all the stuff that's I don't know why that sound came through, but okay. We still have a ton of work to do and stuff like that. Sorry, I totally lost my train of thought on that follow. So we're trying to make the code easier to deal with because we have a huge problem when it comes to the number of people that are actually available to work on Pidgin. Many of the core developers are, how do I want to put this? We haven't acquired any new core developers in a very long time. So most of us now are somewhere between 30 and 40. And most of us have significant others, have gotten married, have kids, have job or a full-time job, all that. So finding time to work on the project is difficult. When I took over the project, I was I'm really gung-ho, I was really excited to go on it, and then, things kind of slipped away for a while because other stuff happened, which happens in open source. It's just a fact of life, unfortunately. But when I started streaming, that forced me to stay focused and keep working on it. That said, working on, while I've been making progress, I haven't been making the kind of progress I want to make. And there's not exactly a good reason for that. It's a combination of a number of things, and maybe I've just picked the wrong stuff to work on. I don't know. So there's been a couple things that have come up time and time again, and I want to touch base on some of them. And I should say, the point of this talk isn't just for me to drone on and on and on forever. I was hoping to get some more of the Pidgin developers here, but there's not a whole lot. But either way, we can post this video, we can discuss it, we can go from there. The point was I wanted to get this set up and actually get people here and talking. And just talking in general. It doesn't have to be on the stream or whatever. But so, one of the big things I've realized is Pidgin has a bad reputation for a number of reasons. I mean, you can just Google Pidgin assholes, and you will find lots of examples. Or at least you used to be able to. I haven't checked in a while, because why would I bother? But so we've got a bad reputation for being assholes. We don't really fit into the gnome crowd, that kind of stuff. So trying to find synergy between us and gnome doesn't really work well, that kind of stuff. But so one of the things I've been trying to do is trying to mend some of those fences. So there's been a discussion thread on, which list was it? I don't remember now. On one of the GNOME mailing lists, I can look it up and let anybody know, or just drop the link somewhere, about what GNOME's going to do for an instant message client. So for those of you that aren't aware, most distros, maybe it wasn't even distros. So years ago, GNOME dropped Pidgin in favor of a program called Empathy. Now, Empathy was built on top of a, I guess you'd call it a library, but it's more of a framework called Telepathy. And Telepathy used dbus, so you would have your XMPP excuse me, XMPP connection running as a separate service that's exposed on dbus, and then your client application Empathy would talk over dbus to then talk to XMPP and then connect and stuff like that. So Telepathy as well as Empathy have been unmaintained for about 2 years or so now, maybe more, which is unfortunate, but it's given us an opportunity to maybe, what do I want to say? Maybe to get back in Gnome's good graces. um, Now that doesn't mean like we're gonna like write or make ourselves Gnome specific or anything, because we still have a Windows version. We do still work on OS X and all of that. But the discussion's been brought up about possibly making a Gnome chat client that's built on libpurple. That's huge for us. But this leads to another problem. So if we have another libpurple UI, that'll be, so then we'll have, or then libpurple will have third-party UIs of Adium and this possible Gnome chat. Maybe there's others. Then there's also Instant Bird. And then there's a bunch of ones we started and either didn't get finished or whatever. But one of the problems with that is the way everything is packaged. Right now, everything lives in a single repository. And when I say everything, I mean everything related to the application running on your machine. So in our source tree, actually I should verify that one of these is gone. I think it is, but I want to verify real quick. But in our source tree, we have the source code for libpurple, obviously, for Pidgin, obviously. Then we also have Finch, which is our ncurses-based client, as well as libgnt, which is the UI toolkit that Finch uses. All of this code in a single place, while convenient when developing it, is a nightmare to package. It's a nightmare, or it's impossible to release anything separately. It's impossible to have other people take ownership of things. And that's one of the big things I want to talk about, is splitting up our source code tree so that other people can step up and take these other projects in the directions where they need to go, and basically give them the attention they need. I mean, and that goes for everything. We should have 4 separate repositories here. libgnt is a great library, but nobody knows about it because it's hidden it's hidden in our repository and only used by Finch. Nobody knows it exists. That's a problem. I mean, maybe it's not a problem, but when it comes to trying to find somebody that actually wants to use it and is capable of maintaining it and doing great things with it, they're not going to find it. It's difficult. It's hard. It's not going to happen. So, what I would like to do in the very near future here, and I will go through and annotate all this and send an email to the Pidgin development mailing list as well, is that I firmly believe we need to split these repositories. We need to find someone to take over GNT. We need to find somebody to take over Finch, and potentially we need to find somebody to take over Pidgin. I would personally like to still maintain libpurple. That's perfectly fine. I can handle Pidgin for now as well, but I absolutely don't use Finch or GNT except to make sure they compile. And I'm basically doing the work that a CI system could do. But those things need to split. And the reason they haven't split yet, well, there's multiple reasons, but the biggest one is right now we are still forward porting the 2.x.y releases into 3.0. Which, let's just give you an example here. So I'm just going to do a diff on release 2.x.y to default. Hold on. And I know you can't see this, but that's fine. I'm just going to run it through diffstat. So, the differences between these branches, which Mercurial does a great job at keeping track of them and keeping the merges down when I have to do them. It's going to take a minute to go here. But it's huge. And come on, my machine's chugging here. But these merges suck. And honestly, they're not really worth the benefit. Alright, so I finally finished up here. So between the release 2.x.y branch and the default branch, 1,343 files have changed. There have been 156,985 insertions, as well as 198,453 deletions. This is a lot of maintenance, a lot of stuff to deal with. And it makes it exceedingly difficult to just deal with in general. I mean, um, the state of where we are right now makes it hard for plugin developers to write plugins. We don't have somebody owning Pidgin 2 either. And that's another thing I'd like to see happen, is not only would we end up with 4 repositories, maybe we end up with 5. Maybe somebody takes over Pidgin 2 and keeps that running as we finish up Pidgin 3. I don't know. But it's something that needs to be discussed. But so right now we are talking about 400,000 lines of code that have changed between these two branches that we're maintaining because reasons. I don't know. And this is something that has to change because it's absurd. Every time we release 2.x.y, I lose an entire day to merging, and it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. But one of the reasons the tree hasn't been split is to do this merge, to get the changes we make in 2.x.y out to 3.0, which is fine, but the problem is we're kind of feature freezed 2.x.y, because if you're going to design something new and put it into 2.x.y, you have to redesign it and do it differently for 3.0. So rather than doing both of those, we pretty much said anything new has to go in Pidgin 3, but we don't have the manpower to actually just, get it done, and that's a problem. And I understand that when we split the repositories, there's going to be issues about compatibility between them and all that. And that's why I've been trying to introduce continuous integration to the entire project. So those of you that watch the stream and everything know of my tool called Convey. Convey was 100% built to fix the continuous integration problems in Pidgin. Those problems are that you end up maintaining this giant farm of VMs or what have you to be able to build Pidgin on different systems. And that is exceedingly expensive. You've got to have tons of VMs, you've got to spend a lot of time keeping them up to date, and nobody else can use them. Only the project proper. Which sucks. That's horrible. So I wrote Convey to tackle these problems. We can talk more about Convey somewhere else. I don't want to get too much into it here. But one of the ideas here is that when we split the repositories, we will be using Convey or some other CI, preferably Convey because it's built for this problem, to actually go ahead and make it easier to catch these problems as they happen in the wild. But splitting that repo is an insane amount of work. It's relatively more simple now, but worse at the same time. So a couple of months ago, we merged a pull request to bring in the Meson build system. The Meson build system is meant to replace auto tools. It's similar to auto tools, CMake, JIP, maybe scans. Basically tools like that. The thing about Meson, and the reason why we decided to implement it, is number one, it is super easy to write. It is super fast because by default on Unix machines it generates Ninja files. The Ninja tool is basically like Make, but it was built by the Chromium developers because Make was too slow for them. So they wrote a tool that is ridiculously fast. On average, I think we save 40% time on our builds. Our builds are 40% shorter than they were. I think it's higher than that, but I think that's what it is on average, somewhere around there. So that's a great move, but right now we have 3 build systems. We have auto tools because of legacy, which I absolutely want to remove in the very near future. But that's going to make this merge ridiculously more difficult because then we're going to have all this auto tool stuff on the 2.xy, on the 2.x side, and we're not going to have it on the 3.0 side. Hopefully that'll only be a one-time pain, but it's going to be a doozy. Aside from that, we still have all the Windows stuff that uses an entirely separate set of make files called makefile.mingw, M-I-N-G-W, which you'll see scattered all over our source code. That's there to do a build on Windows. Luckily for us, Mason can generate Visual Studio projects. It can generate, or it'll let you easily cross-compile for Windows. It'll let you do all sorts of crazy things that have been a nightmare in other build systems. We need to get rid of the Windows build system. We need to get rid of auto tools. Those are pretty much non-negotiable, but the question is, when are we going to do it? And part of that comes into this whole thing with the merge between 2.x.y and 3.0, and it's an absolute nightmare. I know DX has done it once, and I've done it too many times. I know other developers have done it before I took over the project, and I'm sure all of them will say it is a giant pain in the butt. And we are basically a skeleton crew right now when it comes to developers here. We've got a bunch of new contributors when it comes to plugin writers and stuff like that. And one of them is actually the reason I decided to do this tonight. Is to try to just explain where the project is and everything. So with the whole tree split, I've gotten a lot of pushback on it, and I'm going to push again because people aren't dealing with this issue. And when they're not dealing with it, it's easy for them to go, oh, this is simple. Yeah, just keep doing it that way. It's like, no, this is ridiculous. Like, I purposely don't want to release 2.x because then I have to do this merge. That sucks. And it's going to suck. So we end up not doing a whole lot of releases there and stuff like that. Aside from that, let me pull up my Trello board again. There was a few more things I wanted to touch on here. There is the entire thing about our infrastructure as well. Most of you might not know that we run our own servers. We're our own admins. That was something I didn't think would take a whole lot of time. Guess what? It takes a whole lot of time. It even comes down to simple stuff like cleaning up the admin queue in GNU Mailman, to making sure SSL certs are renewed, to making sure the security of the machines are okay, to make sure we're getting security updates on the software on the VPSs. It's an entire job, and right now I'm the one maintaining that, trying to find a direction for the project, trying to find ways to get people involved and everything, and it's a nightmare. So one of the things we've been trying to do is we've been trying to offload a bunch of our infrastructure needs. So that's one of the reasons why we went to Bitbucket. If you go to bitbucket.org/Pidgin, you will see, I think it's about 130 repositories that we used to host ourselves. Those are all there now so that we don't have to host them. We don't have to worry about backing them up. We don't have to worry about securing them. That's Bitbucket's problem. We just have to make sure they do their job and we're good. And that's been huge for us. It also means we don't have to maintain version control hooks to send out emails, to let people know that there's commits, because all that's done by Bitbucket now. But we're still maintaining our track instance. We're still maintaining an XMPP server. We're still maintaining our mailing list, all of this stuff. These are all things that have real costs that take at least me away from programming. And issue triage and so on. One of the things, if anybody's been paying attention, is you've probably noticed I have not triaged issues at all. There's too many of them. It is an insurmountable task right now with the way our infrastructure is laid out and the legacy that's there. There's no point in doing it, so I haven't done it. For example, there were somewhere, I can pull up the graph, but there was about, I want to say 4,000 issues opened in our track in the year 2007. Since then, only about 1,000 of those have been closed. So we have about 3,000 tickets open that are 10 years old. The amount of time to go into and look at each one of those tickets and see if it's valid, which a lot of them are, and quite a few of them have patches. It's an insane amount of time. Even grabbing a patch and looking at it and trying to go, will this apply? I don't know. That is a huge amount of work, and it's something that should happen. I mean, sure, we can go ahead and throw it all away, but I personally am not a fan of that. I know that's the easy way to go, but somebody put in the time. The least we can do is put in the time for them. It's unfortunate it didn't happen 10 years ago, but this is where we are now, and that needs to be resolved. Um, that brings me to another thing too. Is um, there was a lot of, or how do I want to put this? There was a lot of times where we didn't credit people when they should have been. As I mentioned earlier, we got this reputation of being assholes. And case in point, so we've been involved in the Google Summer of Code since 2006. We haven't been in every year, but we've been in a lot of years. There was nowhere in the program at all that you'd find any mention of the Summer of Code. Not that we participated in it, nor who participated as a student, what they worked on, any of that. None of that was there. That is unacceptable to me. I have a pull request open right now, which I think just has some minor tweaks that need to be done yet. That redesigns our about box to correct that, because that's insane. I know when I got started with the project, the day my name got put into the about box, I was ecstatic. I was like, yes, I finally did something. I did enough work to prove myself to deserve that my name being in there. And we couldn't do that for people that went through, that we basically hired as employees through Google. We couldn't do that for them. Why? I don't know. But I mean, these are some of the things I'm trying to change in the project. And sorry, I know this is all scatterbrained and everything. I meant to get an agenda together and I didn't. So here we are. Um, uh, but so there, to try to get more on point here, one of the things we're really trying to do with 3.0 is to make it more accessible. And I don't mean I don't mean just from a user point of view. I mean from a developer point of view. We shouldn't be going years without crediting people for their work. We shouldn't make it more difficult for people than it should be. We shouldn't have things buried in magic so that you just like you don't know how something actually works under the hood. And these are all things that our source code suffers from in so many ridiculous ways. I think it was last week Thursday on stream, we were looking at an if that was 4 lines long. The conditional of the if was 4 solid lines. Like, no, we can't do this. We gotta stop this. So, um, trying to make things more accessible is going to be a problem. Like I said, our reputation precedes us. We've got a lot of work to do there. As part of that, like I mentioned earlier, is I've been working on CI for Pidgin, continuous integration. I have a crazy setup on how to make things work, but I'm not quite there yet. I'm probably about 60% of the way there. But the idea is that instead of doing like a nightly tarball release, I want to do at least nightly packages. Packages for multiple distributions. But not even just nightlies. I'd like to do it for every commit. We should be able to find these issues way ahead of time. One of the reasons why we were able to move so fast back in the day was it was fire and forget. Wait until somebody says something's broke. We can do better than that. We've got better tooling now. We've got tons of stuff to make this happen. We just have to get it done. But so the idea is that I have open source plans on both BinTray and PackageCloud.io. I have a lot of the legwork in to making it possible to build and upload packages to those, but it's incomplete. The problem is each time I go and work on the continuous integration stuff, any momentum the project had seems to 100% disappear. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that, but the biggest one is, and it's something I've noticed a long time ago, that the best way to get people involved in open source and actually working on open source is to see an active project, to see stuff actually getting done and fixed and moved and so on. That's one of the reasons why Thursday nights for my stream has become I'm working on Pidgin this night. It's to constantly remind people that the code is still here. I'm still working on it. Even when I'm not working on that repository every night, I'm working, or the nights where I'm not working on it, I'm working on stuff for Pidgin. But on that Thursday night, I'm in the code base, I'm doing things, I'm trying to make things better. It's kind of like a morale thing. But that comes and goes, or I guess it more than comes and goes. It ebbs and flows. Sometimes a feature I'm working on in Pidgin takes a while. It takes a couple weeks. The About Box thing, I think, is in week 3 or week 4. And things have kind of come to a halt. I don't want to criticize anybody who is still working on stuff or anything like that. Your work is greatly appreciated. I would never say anything bad about it. Even people who aren't able to get things done right now because of the real life happens. I mean, I understand. This is a free time project. You do what you got to do. But that said, we've got to find some way to make this work. Now, there's been a lot of talk about just splitting the tree and releasing Purple 3, I don't know, tomorrow. While we could do that, it absolutely has to be an alpha release. And the distros won't take it. Maybe it could get into AUR for Arch and maybe experimental for Debian, but that's as far as it's going to go. Nobody is, or there's another point to that, but nobody's going to put it into their mainline if we released it tomorrow. While Pidgin 3 works, there's a lot of bugs, but there's another issue I'll get to in a second. But the bigger issue about pulling Pidgin 3 or releasing Pidgin 3 and trying to get into the distros right now, you can't install Pidgin 2 and Pidgin 3 side by side. There's no real good reason for that, except that we didn't put the version name in the include files, as well as the Pixmaps directory and shared directories and stuff like that. There's no version in them. The executable itself is Pidgin. It's named Pidgin in both Pidgin 2 and Pidgin 3. You can't install it in both. That's easily resolvable. We just haven't done it yet because we haven't talked about it. So that is something we need to talk about, and I'm probably going to put a pull request in to do that very soon. Because right now, Pidgin 3 package in Debian would conflict with Pidgin 2, and you've got no way to go back except to uninstall from experimental and then install back from unstable or testing or something. And our package managers aren't going to be happy with us if we're pushing new releases constantly. This is one of the reasons why we need to get to something like package control, where we can just update packages when they're new, and they'll be automated and they'll just work. They'll be there and they'll be fine. Crap, I totally lost my next point. But aside from that, there's been the other idea of just release a half-finished API and then do another one 6 months from now. That was mentioned on that GNOME thread. That has all the same problems that we're mentioning here about there being about ABI issues and stuff like that. If every 6 months you have to completely rewrite your program, that's not gonna fly. Nobody's people are gonna go through that once or twice, and then they're gonna be done with it. They're gonna move on, and that's not acceptable either. I understand everyone's frustration. I really do. I just don't know a better way to deal with these issues. So I guess let's see, what else do I got on my list here? So I guess one of the things I'm really trying to hit home here is we as a project are struggling for help. Unfortunately, the state of the project right now is not very welcoming to new users. So we've got issues there. We've got things to work through and stuff like that. Excuse me. But if there are any brave souls out there that would like to join us on this journey and try to fix some of these issues, and are willing to go through the hell that we need to get through to get there, I guess I'm asking you to stand up. Come join us on IRC, the mailing list, whatever, and let's get this going. Let's get it done. Um, I know there's been a lot of talk about tooling and stuff like that, but these are things that'll help the project forever. And that's, I mean, it's an investment in the project, and it's something that needs to be there. Um, and I keep saying, you know, we don't have the manpower for this and that kind of stuff, but we Pidgin as a project long ago used to attract talent, contributors. I don't want to call it talent. That sounds too businessy. Used to attract contributors. We'd be able to have drive-by patchers and stuff like that. And one of those reasons was we released often, and we barely released. In the 20 months since I've taken over, we've released about 4 times, I think. Maybe it's only 3. Um, and while that's better than we were doing, it's still horrible. It's still real bad. Um, there's a ton of stuff going on in the IM stuff, as everyone knows. The protocols that are in Pidgin proper aren't really used that much anymore. And that's another point I meant to hit on and I forgot to. There's been an idea floating around that maybe Pidgin itself should only, or I should say libpurple itself, should have open spec protocols in its tree. That being IRC, XMPP, Matrix, maybe Zephyr, although that's a sore spot. Because absolutely none of the Pidgin developers run Zephyr. But yeah, so the idea would be that, and then people would be able to pull in plugins for AIM, Yahoo, and all of the proprietary ones that are basically a legal gray area. One of the issues is there's a lot of places, especially in the U.S., due to the DMCA, where people can't contribute to Pidgin because of the reverse engineered protocols in it. And I get it. It sucks. But we can remove those from our tree. We can do those as separate projects where that's all they are. And then that way, if someone's going to get attacked for reverse engineering a protocol, instead of the entire client getting attacked, it's just that protocol. So there's things like that need to be talked, that need to be discussed about, and what I want to say. And then Pidgin itself becomes basically just a project that's about free and open source stuff, which just so happens to, by a third-party module, will give you support as proprietary stuff. But then there's also all the issue. Oh, so we'll go this route. So it's been on my to-do list for a couple weeks now to actually sit down and figure out what needs to be done for at least Purple 3. Now, until we split the repo, I can't release Purple 3. I can't release Purple 3, which means Adium can't be updated for Purple 3. Instant Bird can't be updated for Purple 3. I'm missing one. Spectrum 2 can't be updated for Purple 3. Fiddlebee can't be updated for Purple 3, etc. ad nauseum. Sorry if I missed anyone there, but we need to get Purple 3 out on its own. People shouldn't be stuck waiting for a Purple 3 release because of a bug in Pidgin 3 that we haven't fixed yet, so we can't release the whole thing. That's not acceptable. We actually have third-party UIs now. I mean, we always have with Adium, but we've always had third-party UIs. We need to give them better support. They should just be able to use the library and go and do what they need to do. They shouldn't be dependent on Pidgin, or indirectly dependent on Pidgin. This is why we need to split the repos. So I guess what I'm saying is one of our next steps, maybe not very next steps, but one of our next big steps is we need to split these repos. We need to separate them out. We need to clean them, get rid of a ton of code, and go from there. And we need to focus on getting Purple 3 done. I've been spending a bunch of time in the G-Object world right now for it. I've been working on unit tests, stuff like that, which is an absolute nightmare. That's probably what we'll get into tonight after this, but yeah, it's huge. It sucks. It's a pain in the butt. But yeah, so there's a lot of things here that need to be done, and we need help. I know people are frustrated, but I don't have a better answer right now, unfortunately. Like I said, I will propose on the mailing list again. I'll put a survey voting thing together, and we'll go from there. And if we get the project split, we can actually start focusing on some of these on the more specific issues of getting Purple 3 out the door so that people can actually update to it, and we can focus on what we're actually good at, which is working on the network layer. The Pidgin UI sucks. It's outdated. It was modeled after AIM, and we have no UI designers. We have no graphic designers. And it's going to be a tough sell to do that, to update it and make it modern, I guess. I mean, if you're going for like a motif look and feel, sure, that's fine. But realistically here, users don't want to use something like that. And it's going to hurt us. So if we can focus on the parts that we're actually good at, and we can support somebody who can write a client because they're good at writing, or I shouldn't say client, writing a front end because they're good at writing a front end, that seems like an obvious win for everyone there to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the way I see it for now. But yeah, so I guess we'll kind of wrap this up here. So basically, there's going to be some update. I'm going to send some emails out to the mailing list. We're going to try to come to a decision on some of this stuff. And hopefully we can get the project split. We can focus on Purple 3. We can come back around and work on Pidgin. Or maybe somebody wants to pick up work on Quail. Quail is a Qt-based libpurple client. Or Vulture, which is a Windows 32 client. But then the other thing we get asked about almost daily is then maybe somebody can actually start focusing on a mobile version. There's a lot of reasons why we don't have mobile versions. As of right now, we will never ever have an iOS version. There's a legal issue there due to one of the requirements of Apple's App Store, in that you have to grant an exception to the license to allow, or because like the App Store says they're the only place that can distribute your application or something. I don't remember exactly. It's been years since I looked at it. The problem is we would have to audit our code, figure out who still has live code in Pidgin, and even then that gets fuzzy because stuff could be very easily derived. Maybe somebody only changed white space on a line and then they became the owner. So whatever, that's a nightmare, trying to get in contact with all those users to then see if they will grant the exception to the license. In other words, that's something that is never going to happen. So an iOS client can't happen due to that, but there's no functional or legal reason why an Android version can happen. I don't know about a Windows Phone version. Are those still a thing? I don't even know. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff we can do, and we can kickstart a lot of other stuff, which will then, by getting Purple 3 out, which will then feed back into Purple 3. The whole reason I even became a developer for Pidgin and it started contributing at all is because I was writing a plugin. I'd run into a bug and I'd fix it. We can't get those contributors while we're sitting here on the sidelines, working away, hidden away in a cave. It needs a change. It's just that simple. Um, so that's the status of where we are right now. Oh, I was going to mention the WebKit situation, but that's another argument for getting Lit Purple 3 out by itself. So Pidgin 3 changed its conversation widgets to use a WebKit WebView. When that was done, it was the newest, latest, greatest thing, and everything was awesome. Unfortunately, it is WebKit 1, or the WebKit 1 API, and anybody who's following WebKit even a little bit will know that the WebKit 1 API is deprecated and riddled with security holes. And it's unmaintained, so those security holes aren't getting fixed, they're just getting exploited. That said, the WebKit 2 APIs are still riddled with security holes that are in the wild and getting exploited, but people are actually working on WebKit 2, but that's a different problem altogether. They changed the entire way you modify the DOM, or you interact with the DOM between WebKit 1 and WebKit 2. WebKit 2 has to be, all your modifications to the DOM have to be done in a web process, and Pidgin right now is not threaded. It is single threaded with callbacks maintaining everything. Or I shouldn't say maintaining, but it just, everything's done asynchronously with callbacks. How is that going to work for a web process thread? I don't know. But that's a technical issue. We can figure that out. The bigger problem is there is no port of WebKit 2 to Windows, which means as of right now, Pidgin 3 is stuck. WebKit 1 or WebKit 1 GTK is going to get removed from Linux distributions soon. I don't know the exact timeline. I haven't looked, but it's on the deprecation list for all major distributions, and they will remove that package in the near future. When that happens, you can't compile Pidgin anymore. You'll have to compile WebKit 1. Anybody want to guess how much of a pain it is to compile WebKit? Well, if you think Pidgin is bad, remember that Google built a build tool because Make was choking on WebKit. So right now, Pidgin 3 depends on, or is potentially going to require people to compile WebKit in the possibly near future. And sure, we can go to WebKit 2, then we leave Windows users out of the mix. I've done a lot of talking on this with the WebKit people. I've investigated a ton of time into trying to find alternatives, and right now the best alternative I have is to clean up the widget that we used in Pidgin 2 and make it available for Pidgin 3. That is kind of like my ace in the hole, and I really don't want to use it because one of the reasons I really got into Pidgin development is because I was fixing bugs in that widget because bugs in that widget were delaying releases. So it's I have a love-hate relationship with it, basically. But just to fix that solution, that might be something we have to do. But that said, that's all noise keeping us from releasing Purple 3. And that's a problem. We're in this stupid state where the client is blocking development, or maybe not directly yet, but pretty much directly. The client is going to end up blocking development of the core library that's used by other clients, which is then going to cause the protocols to suffer because we can't update the core library to support the new stuff that the protocols need to move on. That includes voice and video. That includes threaded messaging. That includes custom emojis that are depending on the protocol and or the server instance of the protocol that you're connected to. These are all things that need to be designed and implemented in Lit Purple, and we can't do it because I might lose my client in a couple months, weeks, something, I don't know. And these are all real issues that are going to end up exploding on us. And we need people to come in and help. So, if anybody is looking for something and you're willing to deal with some crap to get there, please reach out to me. contact me. You can find me on IRC and a whole bunch of other stuff. You can find me here. So, all right, with that, I'm going to open this up to any questions anybody might have. So, if anybody wants to post a question in chat, if you're watching anonymously and you saw the link and say IRC, you can feel free to ask in the Pidgin IRC channel, and I can answer there. But yeah, otherwise we'll give it a few minutes here, and then I'm going to take a break, and then we'll get into actually working on some Pidgin code tonight. So, if anybody wants to step up, any questions, anything, and now is the time. So I got a side question here of asking how to help on splitting up the repo. So the best way to do that right now is to, when I send the email to the development mailing list, which will probably happen tomorrow, I just want to get a clear train of thought going there, is to back me up on it and make sure I'm not missing anything, and to help me prove the case on why it needs to be split, and why it needs to be split sooner rather than later. So that's the big thing there. Another question of, am I going to be doing a summary of this? And no, I'm actually going to post it on YouTube, where people can review it at their own leisure. Because like I said, this is just kind of a mind dump of where I am right now in the project and all of that. But yeah, so a lot of stuff there, that kind of stuff. Free DOS support. I'm pretty sure glib requires a 32-bit operating system, but you can do FreeDOS 32-bit, right? And if you can do that, and if you can compile glib for it, you can probably compile purple for it. It'll just be a super stripped down version. Oh, another thing I should mention. If anybody is involved in OS X packaging, specifically Homebrew, so as some of you may know, there was a kind of nasty security issue we had, I believe, earlier this year, that ADM is still getting heat for because they build and maintain their own libpurple binary. A part of that stems from the fact that they haven't upstreamed a bunch of packages into Homebrew that they use for libpurple. So if somebody is good with Homebrew or OS X packaging in general, getting those packages ported from ADM's Homebrew fork into Homebrew proper and getting them maintained. It's lib meanwhile and a handful of other ones. I can't think of what they are. That would be huge. That'll make it easier to actually get libpurple into Homebrew, and then ADM doesn't have to worry about that crap anymore, and that'll free them up. As anybody who's an ADM user here too knows, ADM's also been, quite frankly, a pretty dead project as well. And doing anything to try to help them out when they're even more short-staffed than we are is huge. So, question on IRC. What kind of work needs to be done to remove the old GTK stuff that's still in Pidgin Purple? You said that you guys have removed 100,000 lines of code thanks to removing GTK stuff that got deprecated. So it wasn't just GTK stuff that got deprecated, it was all sorts of stuff. So way back when, I wrote a simple abstraction between like hashing algorithms and ciphers and stuff like that. That all got nuked. That was, I think, about 5,000 lines of code. That got nuked because glib implemented MD5, SHA-1, SHA-256. For the cipher stuff, we just recently merged a pull request to go to libnetl, or netty. I think it's nettle. I don't remember. I can't remember if it's a lowercase L or an I. But yeah, so by doing stuff like that, that has helped tremendously. We removed libgadu from our code. Libgadu is a library for talking to the Gadu Gadu protocol, which is written by I think technically he's a Pidgin developer, but he's also the libgadu maintainer. And now that he maintains it, he's got his own version of libgadu that's outside of Pidgin, or outside of the libpurple tree, and now lives somewhere else. And that's great because that means we don't have to maintain it. We don't have to worry about it. He's got it taken care of. The Gadu Gadu protocol links to it directly, talks to it, and he's maintaining all that. That's great because it's something he's interested in, he's passionate about, and he's not restricted by us or constrained by us on waiting for a release for libpurple to get a new version of libgadu out. Everybody wins there. There's a little bit confusion in some stuff, but overall, it's for the best. Likewise, there's like if you build Pidgin 3 right now, you will see that there are a ton of compiler warnings. There is a pull request, which I should drop the pull request link for people here. There's a pull request out there started by a currently retired Pidgin developer that it tries to get rid of using the deprecated stock API from GTK. And this pull request is massive. Absolutely, absolutely massive. And the more eyes, the better. I don't know that we necessarily want to... Oh, sorry. I should actually give you the pull request. Where is it? The pull request itself is massive. It breaks Bitbucket. You have to adjust things. Or you have to keep redoing stuff like that. And going from there. So that pull request needs more eyes. It needs more people taking a look at it. And we need to find a better way of just like communicating this stuff in general. But like this pull request gets rid of a ton of warnings, but you'll see it is absolutely massive. There are 130 changed files in it, and that needs to be addressed and taken care of. And it's been sitting there, so I took over the pull request after they had to retire, and I opened this pull request July 7th, and it has not moved since then. And the last commit that the former author had on it was 1025 of 16. So this pull request has existed for 11 months. And it's not merged yet. That's a problem. We also have some other ones that are out here that need to be addressed too. We haven't been able to decide if migrating to XGG, or the cross-desktop guideline directories format, is a good idea or not. But somebody wrote a patch for it. So it's, do we, don't we, do we, don't we? And then I think the WebEx token SASL auth stuff got merged in Purple too, but we got to go through and verify. So if people are able to verify, then that's great. But somebody needs to do this work. So, I mean, if people are willing to help, let me know, and let me know what you're interested in. I will find work for you to do. Unfortunately, there's a ton of crap work that needs to be done. Right now, I've been trying to do a lot of it. Tonight, we're going to get into building a libpurple UI that is going to be used strictly for unit testing, because right now, that's the only way to do it. I've tried to fight it a million other ways, and ultimately that's where I'm going to have to go. Reconaro, I appreciate that. It means a lot to see that coming from you, that that as much as you hate that spec, because I know you hate that spec, that you think it's good for the project. That means a lot. So Nullproc, to clarify, the 3.x stuff is both. So the Pidgin client is a reference implementation of libpurple, and both of them right now share a version, and they're in the same tree. Restarting an entirely new project is going to be rough. I don't want to name names or anything, but right now we have 3 to 4 people that are actively looking at pull request, including myself. Building an entirely new client with 3 to 4 people to handle everything that we do in Pidgin is crazy. Maybe crazy good, maybe crazy bad. I don't know, but it's crazy. I just want to mention too. Sorry to the people in chat. I'm trying not to call out people directly. This video, this discussion right now, I am going to post up onto YouTube. So I'm trying to keep it easily editable, and stuff like that. But yeah, so hi everyone who's here, and yeah. So you wish you could help. Let's see. How do you feel about reading tickets? Or reading documentation, finding typos in documentation, updating stuff like that. There are lots of ways that people that don't know how to program can help open source projects. Just going through and seeing if like and issues still exists even. Like I said, we have 2,000 to 3,000 open tickets in our issue tracker right now. I have no idea how many of those are actually still issues or not. But to go through it is insane. Now, I'm not asking you to go through all 2,000 to 3,000 of them, but if somebody says this crashes the program, can you verify the crash? If not, say so. We'll update the ticket and go from there. But any amount of help would be greatly appreciated. So if anybody is capable, please, 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 please let me know. I know there's a lot of issues with track. I want to move away from track. The problem is I don't have anything better to move to. The GitHub issue tracker sucks. The Bitbucket issue tracker sucks. There's maybe Fabricator has an issue tracker. Bugzilla sucks. They all suck. I have a ton of ideas on how to make one that doesn't suck. I don't have the time. At least not until Purple 3 is out, at its very least. So. So if you're willing to help and get you closer to coding, by all means. So one of the issues is we don't have a good way to really mark what's like a good introduction stuff. And that's one of the ways where like the issue trackers suck. Now the GitHub issue tracker does have labels and stuff like that, which could maybe make it easier. The only problem with that is we have to convert our entire repo, change our entire deployment strategies, all this other stuff to get there. And then we have to port all the issues. It's not feasible. So I've been looking and trying to find other issue trackers that would make this easier. And these are all things that cut into time of actually working on the code. And it's a ton of work. It's insane. It sucks. We're not getting anywhere because of it. So there was a question that Bitbucket has webhooks. Yes, they do. I'm not sure what a copper build is, but even then, the webhooks are triggering bamboo right now. And everybody can see the build status. It sucks because I don't have it all done. But we do have a bamboo instance running, assuming it's not pwned right now, because there's another Apache Struts vulnerability. But you can see there's our build stuff. That's not highly publicized because they're all running on my machine. But yeah, actually everything's green. That is awesome. So what are we looking for in an issue tracker? Something to replace track and deal with our existing 3,000 open issues that need to be triaged. And I did not misspeak there. Our open 3,000 issues that need to be triaged. That is correct. And not only that, we shouldn't have to... what is going on here? We shouldn't have to have... it should be easy for people to use. We don't want to not know about issues and problems with the programs because people don't want to create an account. That's one of the reasons why I was so hopeful that Bitbucket would work out, but it just couldn't. I mean, maybe we can get there with that Bitbucket, but I don't know. I'm not holding my breath, basically. Now that I'm looking closer at the build stuff, it looks like we haven't been building in a while. Yes, if you check out, I'll give you a link. like I was saying earlier, the majority of the issues were opened in 2007, and there was about 3,000 to 4,000 opened in 2007, and we only closed about 1,000 that year. At that point, we stopped. We have 2,866 tickets currently open, and they need to be triaged. And we just haven't done them because it got to be insane, and the person that used to do the triage moved on to other things, and it sucked, and nobody picked up the slack. So there's a question of why is libpurple so large? I don't know that I can say with any certainty on anything. So I'm going to try to say this nicely, but, well, and not sound like a dick about it, but historically, Pidgin has been more of a just kind of hack and go kind of project. And it's been a long time since anybody, if anybody has, if ever, like kind of sat down and looked at what makes sense, what should be here, what shouldn't be here, does this design make sense, that kind of stuff. I know that sounds like kind of corporate-y and stuff like that, and it's really not what it is, but it's really like polishing the project. So like, for example, I don't remember how long ago it was. It might have been 4, maybe 5 years ago. Somebody implemented an HTTP library inside of libpurple. Why? I don't know. I was on hiatus at that time. Corbob, we've actually done that before. When we moved to Track, we brought over a few. So before we used Track, we used to use the Sourceforge issue tracker. And when we moved to Track, we brought over a handful of tickets and then considered all the other ones dead. That is something we could do again, but like I said, we can give up on all those issues and just basically tell people, thanks for trying, sorry we didn't get to it, and move on. But there are real issues there. There are real patches. People have spent time. People tried to contribute, but they couldn't because we dropped the ball. I don't know about you, but me as the lead of the project now, I feel like an asshole for that, man. If somebody did a bunch of work and then or if I did a bunch of work for a project and then and then I submit the patch to somebody and they never even look at it, I'm gonna be pissed as hell at those people. I'm like, I shouldn't have even ever wasted my time. And not only that they get pissed at the person that didn't look at it. Then they start, if it happens to them again, if they're even willing to contribute to open source again, then they're going to be even more pissed off, and they're just going to swear it off forever. And we can't do that. Even now, it's forever and a day ago. Some of these are a decade old. It needs to be taken care of. We can do better than this. We need to do better than this. It's unacceptable. But yeah, merging duplicates, seeing if bugs are reproducible, figuring out if they're even valid anymore. So when we deleted, that was the other big thing of how we lost 100,000 lines of code. We finally deleted the old MSN code, which hadn't worked in years. We deleted the Yahoo code, which Yahoo, as some of you may know, completely wrote a new protocol. Was it earlier this year or late last year? I don't remember. But they wrote an entirely new protocol. We ripped out the MySpace protocol. We ripped out some XMPP, like extension protocols, like Gtalk XMPP, Facebook XMPP. We removed Mixit, or MXIT. I'm not actually sure how to pronounce that. That was a protocol that, due to the Cisco Talos program, they found a bunch of issues in it. And one of them that was so bad and couldn't be fixed because it was in the actual network layer itself, that Mixit ended up shutting down. So all that code just got deleted, and that was a huge chunk of that 100,000. But that's another thing too. As I talked about earlier, if we keep libpurple down to just the core protocols, it'll become lean and mean. We can make it testable. We can figure out all this other stuff, and then we can take all those crazy protocols that have all this crazy I don't even want to look at most of them kind of stuff. And whoever wants to deal with that, they can do it on their side, do it over there. And then we can focus on the abstractions. We can focus on making sure that clients can do things. We can focus on that protocols can do things. We can focus on making that piece of it actually work and work very well. Instead of right now where it's like we kind of have voice and video, but only on XMPP and only on Linux. When in reality, all we have to do is say, hey, we're going to give you a GStreamer sync, or you're going to give us a GStreamer sync, and we're going to pass it out and just pass it out to the UI, and then the UI is going to display it. That's all we should need for voice and video, but we're not there. This isn't rocket science, but our abstraction is wrong. The author that wrote it is told it does not want to work on it, or he's told me a couple things. He's told me he doesn't want to work on it anymore. Totally understand, totally get it. There's a ton of pressure there. Aside from that, he said the abstractions are wrong. He went down the wrong path with it, and that's okay. As developers, we all make mistakes. It's perfectly fine. I do it all the time. If you were on my stream Tuesday night, you would have seen me spend an hour trying to determine trying to eventually determine that I was missing a star. We make mistakes. It happens. But we got to do better than this. We got to clean it up. We got to get over the hump. We got to move. We need to get invigorated. We need to find that motivation. We need to keep going. So I'm going to send an email out to the development list probably tomorrow, maybe Saturday. I'm going to document a bunch of things that need to be done and stuff like that, whether it's going through our docs, looking for issues there. There's some of the things that are going to be on there, going through our documentation, looking for stuff there. There is some stuff that could be done when it comes to our G-object introspection stuff, which is a little hairy at first to get set up, but there is a ton of stuff that needs to be fixed there. I have a reference pull request that I'll put in the email describing all this, like how it works and all of that. Hold on, let me get a link to our mailing list stuff. That is if you're okay signing up for a mailing list. Here's the link for the mailing list stuff. But that is a ton of work. That is really simple, but is a ton of work. So even being able to do any part of it is a huge help. I did a pull request a couple of weeks ago about going through, and I don't know, I did like, I don't even know how many warnings there are, but I think I did something like 200 of them. I spent 2 nights, just went through it, did a bunch of it, had to track down a bunch of code to see who owned what pointers at what point and that kind of stuff. But I got rid of 200 warnings. You wouldn't be able to tell when you look at the build log, but that we're 200 closer to being done than we were before. So even if you just do 10, that's 10 more that are out of the way that somebody else doesn't have to do. Maybe the 10 you pick are the 10 worst, and you just finish it because you're frustrated with it and you want to be done with it because you're like, I'm not going to let this thing beat me. But then you're like, all right, well, I finished this last one and I'm done. I'm not doing this again. Even if you get to that point, that's fine. I greatly appreciate the effort you put in, and I will merge that pull request because that's 10 more we don't have to do. That's 10 more the project gets because you were willing to put that work in. So yeah, I'm just kind of rambling all over there. So do we got any other questions here? Hold on, there's one more thing I gotta look at here. So yeah, there's brought up that there's a Mime API in here, a Mime encoding stuff. The theme stuff is there. The core only has very basic primitives when it comes to theming. Yeah. So there's apparently there's 200 lines for logging infrastructure, which our logging API sucks. But right now it works. I don't want to touch it because it works. But in Pidgin 4, if we ever, or in Purple 4, once we ever get there, I am totally rewriting that thing. Reckonaro, I don't know. I'm gonna start drafting the email maybe tonight, probably tomorrow. I got a bunch of stuff going on tomorrow night and Saturday morning. But yeah. Don't worry. I will get a whole bunch of stuff put together on ways that people can help, because people keep asking me how they can help, and I haven't been able to say how. And I'm like, I'm not ashamed to say I need help here, because this, like I said at the beginning of this discussion, when I started working on, or when I took over the project, I was super optimistic that I would be able to release Purple 3 in a year. We're almost at 2 years, and it looks further away than ever. But I'm going to keep pushing. I would love for you all to help me push as well, because Lib Purple and Pidgin as well as any other Lib Purple based client, there's a lot of really good stuff here. This shouldn't sit because of politics or personal feelings or something like that. We just got to do the work. That's all there is to it. If you submit a pull request and you make a mistake, it's not a big deal. If I comment on it and you think I'm being a dick, call me on it. I'm not trying to be. I'm trying to make sure that the project gets good code and that you yourself can learn and move on and grow as a developer or a contributor or just a person in general, someone that can take criticism and move about it. All criticism isn't bad, but a lot of people seem to think it is, and we're not here for that. We're here to build a software program because we find it useful, because we have a need for it to be useful and for it to work for us, and we just need to work on it and get it done. So, yeah. Okay, keeping Pidgin alive for Windows, that's cool. So, Nullproc, how much do you know about Windows IPC? Because if we're going to stick with the WebKit approach, somebody needs to implement the WebKit 2 IPC API for Windows. I know maybe enough to get it done, but I haven't developed on Windows in 15 years. So I am obviously very behind on the current state of everything in Windows. So I'm not the right person for it. Yeah, see, and recognize, see, yeah, as Reconaro was saying, we've just fallen out of date. We've fallen behind, and it's okay. We can pick ourselves up. We just need to do it. I am Impluch. Am I saying that right? I hope so. Don't worry about it. Everybody had to start somewhere. We can start with some easier tasks. I can do some videos on how to update some of the introspection stuff, and just even getting some of the basic stuff in, like not even worrying about ownership transfer, stuff like that. Just like getting the documents or updating the document correctly or documentation for it. That's huge too, because a lot of that is just busy work. But for somebody that's starting out, that little bit of busy work gets you into the code. You can start seeing how it's structured. You can start understanding how and why we're passing data around the way that we are, and that'll help you start feeling more comfortable around code and stuff like that. Here is the pull request I mentioned that updated the G-object introspection stuff. Actually, yeah, maybe it wasn't even 200. I only touched 9 files, and it took me 2 days. Yeah, so one of the things I mentioned, like as Reconaro was saying too, is on my phone, I have 2 lines, so 10 icons on my phone for chat applications. I'm the lead developer of Pidgin. I should have 1, and it should be Pidgin or some libpurple based client. And it's not, because we can't get there. We don't have the manpower to do it. And I keep saying manpower. I don't mean to make it about gender or anything. I just don't know the right word to use. We don't have the capacity for it. There we go. And it's just it drives me nuts. Where it's like, oh, I gotta go to Slack. Oh wait, now I got a message in HipChat. Oh, now somebody's on Hangouts. Oh, now somebody's on Discord. Oh, now somebody's on XMPP. And just like, oh my god, like I should have 1, just 1. That's all we need. So for those of you that don't follow the project a whole lot, you'll know Ian Robb has done a ton of work on keeping us up to date with modern protocols. Um, Mad props to him. Alyssa as well has come in and been working on the Discord protocol plugin. We didn't even have that a couple months ago, and I'm on it now, and it works great. There's a few bugs here and there. It's going to happen. It's a reverse engineered protocol. It happens. Uh, but, I mean, it works more often than it fails, and that's usable to me. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but yeah. Um, Mushmouth, okay, so you use Adium and Pidgin for XMP and IRC. Um, Mushmouth, if you're capable of supporting Adium needs so much help right now. Um, they've been struggling for a while. I can put you in contact with their developers, maybe get some help there, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, as someone who's doing all this and involved in all this, all the projects know each other and that kind of stuff. Like if you would rather work on Adium or something, like I said, we could use somebody to help Adium with their OS X packaging, getting the stuff that's in their homebrew fork into actual proper homebrew. That would be huge to actually getting a libpurple package in homebrew proper. Um, that'll satisfy a bunch of security people, and it'll make Adium developers' lives a million times easier too. Um, yeah, the Slack client does suck. There is a plugin for libpurple for Slack. I have no idea how well it works. I forked it on GitHub. I started looking at it, and then moved on to other things that were more pressing. But yeah, I'm on like 4 Slacks myself, and it sucks because I should have one chat instance which is on all of them, but I don't because we don't have a client for mobile. We don't. Our Slack support sucks. Even then, we're missing a ton of features that make Slack desirable. So getting people to use it, which will then help improve the plugin because people find bugs and report them, and then the issues get fixed. To get that whole chain of events moving, we have to have libpurple that supports custom emotes or emojis or whatever you want to call them. And we need to be able to support threaded conversations. We need to be able to support attachments. We need to be able to support pinned messages. We need to do all these things, but those abstractions have to live in libpurple. And we can't do that as we're fixing all these other things with a very small capacity for work. It sucks. Reckoner, I was gonna ask you what happened on that. I might actually pull your branch and finish it up. Yeah, the staff for mental bandwidth. So a lot of people ask me how I keep going. Um, so I work at least 40 hours a week, sometimes more like 45 to 50. And right now I'm streaming at least 12 hours a week. So that puts me, in the best case, at 52 hours a week. And that's not including time where, I got to do stuff around the house. I got to run errands. I got to do laundry, other stuff around the house, deal with pets, that kind of stuff. All that stuff comes in. And all of a sudden you're like, where'd this month go? I can't believe we're halfway through September already. I can't believe I've been leading the Pidgin project for almost 2 years now. I don't know where the time went. I honestly don't know. Um, Mushmouth, what? Just say power your attack helicopter? Yeah, the Slack XMPP integration isn't bad, but it's not good either. But yeah, emoji is a total shit show, and a lot of people really, 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 really like their emojis. Just buy new clothes instead of doing laundry. Yeah. um, so there's been other talk about like people that can't contribute, or people that can't contribute because they don't have time or expertise or stuff like that. Um, so last week we had the board meeting for Instant Message Freedom. Instant Message Freedom is a 501c3, which is a nonprofit corporation, which Pidgin is under the umbrella of. That's been structured that way because Pidgin in the past has been sued. We've been sued for reverse engineering protocols. Um, and what would happen is that the lead developer at the time would be the defendant of the suit. So after the last time that happened and the case got settled, we stood up instant message freedom so that there would be a legal entity instead of an individual that would be um, sued. So I should give you all the link for that. So if somebody wants to take a stab at cleaning up the I Am Freedom website, it's a real simple static site, but look at it. It needs some work. I mean, this isn't 1994. While the code works and everything, it could use a refresh. Aside from that, we need to start talking about I Am Freedom. We need to get it out there. But what I was originally starting with all this is I Am Freedom does have some funds. I Am Freedom hasn't done much because, like I said, we don't talk about it. But in one of the things in the board meeting was we want to try looking at reaching out to other projects. Right now, I Am Freedom only works with ADM and Pidgin. There's been talk about reaching out to the Biddleby people, reaching out to the Miranda people. I think there's another one I can't remember. I'll have to check the meeting notes. But these are all things that we can and should do, and using the money that's there, we should start supporting other open source things and stuff like that, and just being good open source citizens and giving back to the community that gives to us and all that. So yeah, Mushmouth. I mean, that is the entire reason why Pidgin and the Purple exists. Okay, maybe that's not why it started, but yeah, that is definitely it. Um, but yeah, I mean, the multi-protocol client, like a lot of people are like, oh, you don't need it, and now everybody's moving to matrix.org or riot.im. Riot.im is an implementation of matrix.org. Matrix.org, think of it as like the libpurple to where riot.im is a UI built on top of matrix.org. But a lot of people want to move to that because they're doing transports and stuff like that. And it's like, guys, we already did this. We've done it multiple times. There was XMPP gateways that would talk to the different protocols and all that. And then on top of that, then we have Spectrum 2, which came out of a Pidgin Summer Code project, which will then do transports in different ways from XMPP and stuff like that and let you cross all these boundaries. And it's like, here's Matrix doing it again. It's like, people don't want that. People want their stuff to work like the protocol they were in. And while it's difficult for a multi-protocol client to do that and to get the abstractions right, I have no doubt that we can do it. We just have to get there. We have to focus on it. And right now we're so distracted by the UI of Pidgin, by this WebKit issue, by server maintenance, by mailing list admin, by all this other stuff. There's so much noise of crap that we have to deal with that we can't focus on the things that actually need to happen to actually help invigorate the open source instant messaging I don't want to say community, but I can't think of the right word. But yeah, excuse me. But yeah, we need to get focused, and the problem is right now we're scattered all over the place, and we need to get focused, and that's ultimately what it comes down to. Sven, yeah, that's why I'm recording. That's why I'm planning on uploading this to YouTube so other people can see it, so they can actually go for it and all that. I should have put chat on the window. But yeah, I mean, that's the idea. This is kind of like a call to arms. This is where we're at. This is where I think we need to go. I might be wrong on 100% of everything I said tonight. I don't think I am, but I'm open to that idea. If anybody thinks anything I'm saying is crazy, by all means, let me know. Let me know. Gotcha, Reckonile. We can definitely do that soon. We can check some calendars and go from there. Alright, so if anybody else doesn't have any other questions or anything, I'm going to take a quick break. My throat is very sore from talking for so long, and I got to get up and stretch. Let's see, it is about 20 to 10 my time. That means after my break, we'll have about an hour to start working on some of the testing stuff for libpurple. So I'm going to take a quick break. Okay, thanks, Reckonile. Thanks for coming by. I'm going to take a quick break. If anybody's interested in reviewing any of this, you can click the video link at the top of the page here, or if you're on mobile, it's one of the tabs on mobile. Aside from that, probably tomorrow night or more like Saturday afternoon, I plan on having just this snippet of the stream uploaded to YouTube. I will provide a link, or what, I can just give you my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel doesn't have much of anything on it, but you know, that's how it goes. Um, so you will be able to find it on my YouTube channel, which I think this is the right link. Let me verify. Yeah, so there's not a whole lot here. There will be at some point. I'm planning on getting more of my streams actually put to YouTube when I get to specific things. Especially like when we start talking about how we're gonna like describe and document to people on how to do some of these things that need to be done in Pidgin and that kind of stuff. I'll make videos of them. We'll put them up on YouTube. They'll be easily accessible. All of that. Yeah. So, all right. I'm gonna take a quick 5-10 minute break. Rest my throat a little bit. Rest my voice. When we come back through, we're gonna go through. We'll replay all the alerts that happened. There hasn't been a ton of them, but there's been a few. So we'll replay those events, and we'll get started on this testing stuff. So, all right. Thanks everyone for listening to me rant for a while. Thank you all for the great questions. Thank you all for the support and offering of help. And I will do my best to get everything to you by Saturday, to the mailing list there, and just to get some sort of setup going in general too. The mailing list will be like the announcement of it and like where to find it, that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I'm gonna take a quick 5-10 minute break, then we'll get back. We'll actually get some work done. So all right, peace out, or whatever. I'll be right back.